Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, June 8th, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about President Joe Biden's continuing positive approval rating over the American electorate. Now, before this video gets started, I want to ask if any of you guys have a blue microphone. I use that right now for my videos, and I've seen a bunch of your guys' comments talking about how my voice sometimes fades to the left and right. That's because it is a microphone that goes all the way around. It sort of is meant to pick up things like that versus my other microphone, which did not do that. But if you guys know how to fix it, I would love to know, because I've tried to make it so it just sounds the same or sounds one directional, but it's been quite hard to do, and I haven't been able to figure it out. Also, I've seen a couple of comments about this little slight humming background noise that some of you guys might hear. I live in the state of Maryland. I live right outside Washington, D.C., so there are a lot of cicadas here. And if you don't know what a cicada is, I want you to Google it, because I don't have a picture of it myself. But essentially, they come out once every 17 years, and they make a lot of noise. They make a lot of noise, and you can hear it. It sounds like a constant alarm. Right now, I'm pretty far removed from the area in which you could hear it very heavily, but it still is very loud, and it's something that you can definitely hear in the background of my video. So I do apologize for that, but there's nothing really I can do because there's billions of them across the DMV area. But let's get back to the topic of the video. It's Joe Biden's approval rating, and the fact is, 140 days in, Joe Biden has yet to become an unpopular president. He seems to be hovering around 53% to 41%, and that's rounding up from the disapproval rating number, actually 40.5%. So the difference here, in terms of Joe Biden's approval rating, you're talking about a difference of 12.6%. And that seems like it's pretty good. And it is pretty good. I'm not going to take that away from President Biden. And this is honestly just a continuation of Joe Biden's popularity across the United States. And it is quite interesting to see, because this honeymoon period, while typically lasting just as long for other presidents, is quite surprising considering how polarized we are as a nation. Donald Trump's honeymoon period didn't even last a few weeks. I mean, he started out on day number 4, and then eventually by the time we had reached day number 14, yes, 2 weeks in, Donald Trump became an unpopular president and remained the same way throughout the entirety of his term. And that was the unfortunate reality for President Trump, that he simply was not a popular president. It largely had to do with the way that he handled COVID-19 throughout the entire year of 2020. But for the 3 years, you can't really make any type of major event excuses as to why he was unpopular. He simply just wasn't a likable president, nor a likable candidate. If you look at the polling rating numbers of his favorability rating, which takes away from how do you approve of him in the Oval Office, but rather how do you approve of him as a person, Joe Biden consistently outperformed Donald Trump. And Joe Biden and the Democratic Party had a very eloquent campaign, which I don't think we talk about enough. The approval rating is roughly the same on Real Clear Politics, but I do want to show you the favorability rating numbers, because those honestly hold a lot of weight. And I do think that the Democratic Party did the best that they could and really took advantage of the Democratic National Convention in order to make Joe Biden a popular figure. If we take a look at the favorable/unfavorable rating, you can actually see, leading up to the convention throughout the entirety of the 2019-2020 campaign season, that Joe Biden was unpopular. He was someone who was not necessarily approved of by the American public, and you can see that in the data. Poll after poll after poll, you might see a few out there that show Joe Biden approved of a little bit, but generally speaking, I mean, if we look in December, you'll see Harvard-Harris showing -8, Harvard-Harris showing +3. That's, different than the Economist YouGov poll that shows him -8, -10, Quinnipiac, -3, Monmouth University, -7. What you saw happen, though, as we were leading up to the convention, was that following the convention, the numbers considerably increased. I mean, it was night and day for Joe Biden. You were talking about someone who was averaging in the negative, leading up to the convention. And then once the convention occurred, once that character building process happened, he started to become approved of. And it holds true today. Joe Biden has a positive spread of 12 points amongst the American public, which sort of tells us exactly why his approval rating is so high. You do have to understand that while they do try to separate the job approval rating and the favorability rating, people will still likely intertwine them. If they think Joe Biden is a bad president, they're less inclined to say that they like Joe Biden as a person, and vice versa. So we're seeing a direct correlation between the favorability rating and the job approval, and honestly, that's just how American politics works. And for Donald Trump's sake, it was a very adverse reaction. Because people didn't like President Trump, they were not necessarily inclined to approve of the way that he handled the oath of office. I mean, looking at the numbers, throughout the entirety of his presidency, he never was liked as a person, even throughout the entirety of the campaign season. The American public had pretty much said from the very beginning, we don't approve of President Trump. I view him in an unfavorable manner, and that holds true today. I mean, you can see a direct correlation as well. The times where, Donald Trump was in his lowest points, he seems to be in his lowest points in terms of favorability rating as well. And if you look at the numbers, you can actually see very similar trend lines here because that's how it works. But I will say that during the campaign season, when you're talking about an open race, you don't have job approval ratings. So favorability ratings don't hold as much weight because you do see a correlation between the job approval rating and the favorability rating. It will matter for the midterms, it will matter for a president running for re-election, but it won't matter for that opposition party candidate, nor will it matter for some of these down ballot people, just because they might not be in office. But my main takeaway is that they do hold very significant connections. And if Joe Biden is to be approved of by the American public just as a person, his approval rating will likely hold for as long as they approve of him as a person. Because if his numbers were as bad as they were prior to the DNC, he probably wouldn't be approved of today. And I say that in full confidence. But the reason why Joe Biden is approved of goes well beyond the fact that he's a likable person. I am not one who is going to deny the fact that Joe Biden is a likable candidate. He comes across as very genuine. That was the major playing point of the Biden campaign. Throughout the entirety of their campaign season, his message was love and care for the American public, revitalizing the soul of our nation. That wasn't the messaging from the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign was more focused on, we can get things done even though we're not politically correct. We can get things done even with President Trump. He's a businessman. He knows how to recover the economy. We're not as restrictive as the Democratic Party. Two very opposite forms of the campaign, and only one ended up winning, and that was Joe Biden's. So currently speaking, his approval rating is so high, largely because people genuinely like him as a person, but also due to the fact that COVID-19 seems to be not eradicated by any sense at all. And to say that is very tone deaf considering the very nature of the rest of the world. But I will say that the United States certainly has done very well. You can see the vaccination numbers right next to the new reported cases. You can see here, looking at the numbers, you'll see that 42% of Americans are fully vaccinated. What an amazing number. And that actually means, general population. If you look at some of these states, Maryland, 54% population coverage. Okay, good. New York, 53.9. But amongst the eligible or 18 plus population, the number gets close to 70. The number gets close to 70. When you talk about population coverage, there are 5, 6, 10, 11-year-olds who can't get the vaccine that are considered under this population coverage, but they can't be covered. So when the numbers seem a little bit lower than expected, understand what population is defined when you're looking at the data. From Bloomberg, they generally will consider everyone in the entire country. Same thing with this New York Times, but when you go to the individual state websites, they will attempt to break it down 18 plus, 16 plus, 12 plus, and then you will see the general population number, which, and looking at it, actually is a lot higher in terms of those who are eligible and are getting the vaccine, especially in those Democratic states. And we'll talk about that direct correlation in just a moment. But looking at the COVID-19 cases, I do want to say that the vaccines seem to be working. We are looking at the most amount of people going out and traveling, going out and vacationing, and going to different areas. For me personally, I just came back from the beach for a week. Okay, it was outdoors, it was on the boardwalk. I did not need to wear my mask the majority of the time. I followed all the CDC guidelines, and I wasn't required to wear one in many instances. I came back and I got tested almost immediately. I thought that it would be important just for me to know, because even though I do have the vaccine and I've had it for months now, that it was important just for me to know in case I could be a carrier. I tested negative. Every single person that came with me tested negative. And you're talking about us. We were at the boardwalk, and there were probably hundreds of people walking around, right? And, we're not all gathered together, but they're walking past us, and there is a chance that you do get COVID-19. But the main point is that the vaccines absolutely work. And, the point of the vaccine is to return to a sense of normalcy, and as more Americans start to do that, and they see that happening under a President Biden and didn't see it happen under a President Trump, they will start to view Biden in a more positive manner. And the fact COVID-19 cases are the lowest they've been in over a year is amazing. This is phenomenal. It doesn't matter which side of the political aisle that you are on. This is a great thing for the American public. And, I do want you guys to also, if you live in America, to recognize the privilege that we have living here. Joe Biden made promises to give some of these vaccines to the rest of the world because he should. Absolutely. I mean, looking at some of these countries, the United States is averaging 15,000 cases per day. You're looking at 4.5 cases per 100,000 people. In Brazil, that's 30. Okay, in Mongolia, that's 41. In the Philippines, it's higher, that's 6. If you look in South Africa, it's 8. Looking around the rest of the world, we seem to be the only ones that are doing super well besides those in the European Union and a few exceptions. Understand why we are doing so well. We have 26% of the world's vaccine supplies, but not nearly 26% of the world's populations. Just understand why there is this need to receive vaccines from the United States to be distributing them to Mexico, to other countries around the world. There's a reason why Pfizer is promising 2 billion doses to less fortunate countries. This vaccine needs to be distributed because other countries are getting hurt very, very difficult. But we're getting a little bit off the point here. Main takeaway is that COVID numbers are down. COVID numbers are certainly one of the most important things for the United States at this point, a return to a sense of normalcy. And that's what Joe Biden promised. Joe Biden promised 100 million doses in the first 100 days. He did 200 million doses. The promises made and promises kept part of the Biden administration seems to be adding up. And Joe Biden wants to be at a point where 50% of the United States population receives or is fully vaccinated. And, by July 4th, the time is ticking down. We're about 1 million doses per day. So it's going to take a little bit more than July 4th. And if he doesn't make that promise, well, you probably will see the right-wing media completely up in arms about it. But at the end of the day, it is beneficial that these vaccines are distributed. And, if Biden wants to make that promise and it was wrong, that's on him. He shouldn't have made the promise if he wasn't going to follow through with it. But I will say that there is no negative part of our country opening back up. There is no negative part of our country starting to get back on track and to diminish the presence of COVID-19 across the United States. And the general American public recognizes that. Not only is Biden's approval rating holding strong, you also have to recognize that the numbers are pretty strong for Democrats in the generic ballot. As of right now, the most recent polling numbers aren't super bad for the Democrats. I mean, they should be at a higher point if they truly want to win the House in 2022. But if Quinnipiac has them up by 9, if other pollsters have them up by 3, 10, only 1, and that's McClellan and Associates, a historically right-wing pollster, showing Republicans ahead by only 1, at the end of the day, I will say that this, right now, at surface level, is beneficial for Democrats. Because Joe Biden is popular, Democrats are doing better. Because Joe Biden is popular, his favorability rating is higher. Because Joe Biden is popular, the approval rating of the United States, Democratic members in the Senate, Steny Hoyer, Nancy Pelosi, you also have Chuck Schumer in the Senate. You have other representatives, other senators that are going to start to see an increase in approval because people are happier with who is in the Oval Office. People are happier with the way that Joe Biden is handling a number of issues. Specifically, like I said, COVID-19. COVID-19, Joe Biden enjoys a 65% approval rating in the handling of the coronavirus, a spread of plus 33 points. From 13 to 33 is a huge and super significant jump. And it's there because Joe Biden handling COVID-19 is being approved of because of these measures he is taking. But there are some things where he is falling back on. If you're wondering why his approval rating isn't plus 33, it's because of issues such as immigration, where his approval rating numbers aren't nearly as high, aren't even high enough to overcome the disapprove. You're talking about someone who's down double digits, negative 11. This is his worst point and something that the American public clearly does not like Joe Biden handling. They do not approve of the border situation. They do not approve of the way Joe Biden and his administration is handling the issue of immigration across the United States. So while Joe Biden might be up in coronavirus and up in the economy, which you can see here, he's down in immigration, which likely is the reason why he's not up by 20, up by 30. Immigration seems to be that weighing factor that's proving to be detrimental for Joe Biden and handling certain issues across the United States. But, main thing, we are 140 days in and Joe Biden is still popular. At this point in time, Donald Trump, 140 days, we can actually see here, he was at a 55.8% disapproval rating and a 38% approval rating. You're talking about 56 to 38, a difference of 18 percentage points in the negative, which means that on the overall net, Joe Biden is doing better than Trump by around 30 points. And, that's just interesting to see. Joe Biden just seems to be the more popular one, but I do want to compare him to other presidents so you understand that historically speaking, this makes sense. This is exactly where former presidents are. If we're looking at the exact time period today, I can go to 140 days. You can see the exact numbers. Bush was just a point off. Obama was just, 6 points off. Clinton was disapproved of, but H.W. Bush, around 7 points off. Reagan, around 6 points off. The difference here is that, the only major and significant decrease. Bill Clinton is a slight exception because polling wasn't as routine then, so that 40.1% number held a lot longer than it did for Donald Trump at 38%. But the difference here is that, Obama is a little bit higher, George W. Bush slightly higher, George H.W. Bush higher, Ronald Reagan higher. But the point is the honeymoon period does last this long, and we will see if Joe Biden can outlast some of these Republicans or Democrats, or if he will start to fall the same way that Obama did, the same way that Bush did, the same way that all the other modern presidents did. But if Joe Biden doesn't, that could prove to be very good for the Democratic Party. And the only reason why I'm even entertaining that as a possibility is because COVID-19 continues to be a major issue across the United States in terms of the way that people vote and the way that people view our politicians. But it is very clear that it is becoming a less and less important issue in terms of the way that people go about their daily lives. The mask mandate has dropped in many states, already dropped for months now, and people are more confident leaving their homes, going on vacation, seeing their family members. They're vaccinated, their grandma's vaccinated, their brother is vaccinated, now their 12-year-old son is vaccinated. All in all, the vaccines and the COVID-19 numbers decreasing might be that reason why Joe Biden may be able to last longer than other presidents in terms of that honeymoon period. And it may be a reason why Democrats could prove to do better than expected in 2022. Joe Biden at 53.1% in the approve, 40.5% in the disapprove as of today, June 8th, 2021. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2020, actually, let's make that Biden-Harris administration analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.